We are going to be working on very large pieces of paper, 12 by 18. I would work in the landscape position, which is the wide way. Portrait position is taller. It is up to you if you want to work taller, that's fine. So I'm working in landscape position. My ruler is obviously 12 inches and my paper is 18 inches, so I am going to have to kind of move it along to get my vanishing points. Usually we draw the horizon line, which is the line across the middle of the paper. Since I know I'm going to have to erase my horizon line, I'm actually just going to put my vanishing points and have an imaginary horizon line. So I want to come kind of close to the edge of my paper. I want to place my first vanishing point. And then, since my ruler is not long enough to go all the way across the paper, I'm kind of just going to place my pencil here and move my ruler along it so that I'm sure that I'm still straight across from the first vanishing point. And then I'm going to place my vanishing point toward the end of that. So kind of there. Then what I'm going to do, so I can see my vanishing point over here, I want to draw that center line, my building that's going to be in the center. And again, it doesn't have to be centered directly in the middle of the paper. It could be off to one side. It can be right in the middle. It's up to you. I'm going to kind of center mine, so I'm going to place it here. And the taller you want the building, the higher up you should go. It should go through your horizon line, and even though your horizon line's not showing, it's still there between your vanishing points. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my vanishing point and I'm going to connect it to that line at the bottom here. So vanishing points here, connecting to the line down here. Doing the same thing on the other side. So from my vanishing point on this side to my line, drawing my line there. So it should look something like that. Now I need to do the top of my building roof here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up to the top of the line here. I like to line my pencil up so I can go against it, point it at my vanishing point, and then I'm going to just draw how wide I want my rooftop to be. Remember, you got a nice large paper here, so you should be able to make a decent sized building. And I'm going to do the same thing on this side, pointing it at my vanishing point and at where my roof is. Make the line the width of how I want it to be, and they don't have to be equal. Looks something like an arrow. Then I'm going to go vertically from the side here. Should be parallel to my center line here. Make a line down. Same thing, parallel with my center line. There's one building. And then I'm going to continue to make my buildings, and then I will demonstrate how to add some details. So I've gotten a good amount of buildings here. I could still go out a few more buildings with my vanishing points, but I want to go ahead and demonstrate how to do windows, how to do doors, and maybe a few extra more detailed things. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to demonstrate some windows for you. Actually, let me demonstrate how you can put in some alleyways to make it look like you can walk between some of the buildings here. So you're looking for buildings like this one. And if it's on the left side of your building, you're going to be going to your left vanishing point. If you're looking at the right side of the building, you're going to be working on the right vanishing point. So this one I'm working on the left side of the building, so I'm going to be putting my pencil here, pointing it at my vanishing point that is all the way across the paper, and drawing a line. Make sure you're pointed at your vanishing point. It gives the illusion that you can walk between the two buildings. I can do this on this one over here as well. Again, pointing it all the way across the paper at my vanishing point. Even if you can't reach the vanishing point with your ruler, you need to be pointing it at it. And I'm going to do that on any ones that I possibly can. I can do that on this one over here. It's going to kind of be sitting out on its own. It's a little away from my other buildings, but that's okay. Maybe put in a courtyard there. And on this side, I can actually do it to, let's see, I can do it to this building here, pointing it at my vanishing point that's all the way across. Can do it on this one too. And I think that's all I can do. So let's do some windows. There's lots of different styles you can do. I'm going to start with kind of some long rectangles. So going parallel with the edge of my building, I'm going to come in and I'm going to make the sides of my windows. And you have the opportunity here to space them out equally to try to make them about the same size. If you're going to leave room for a door at the bottom, you can leave room. Once I have that, I want to come to my vanishing point. And since I'm working again on the left side of my building, I need to use my left vanishing point. This is very important for making windows in this city. So I'm going to put my pencil here, and I'm going to allow my ruler to rotate on my pencil. So, pencil on the vanishing point, rotating my ruler to the top of the line I just drew. I'm going to draw the top of the window. Come back to my vanishing point, let my ruler drop down. I'm going to draw the bottom of my window. And I'm going to keep doing that all the way down, rotating my ruler. If you don't rotate your ruler, your windows won't line up properly, and they will end up very out of place and not fitting correctly on your building. Now that I've gotten all of my windows drawn in using my rotating ruler, I'm going to simply come in, go parallel with my building here, and draw the edge of my window lines. Now, if I'm going to do the same kind of windows on the other side of my building, on this wall here, what I really should do is that once I finish my first side with windows, I want to line my ruler up with the edge here, and I want to place the next windows so that they look like they match those first set of windows. So I want to put my ruler here, and then I want to draw my window to look like it's right next to the other one. So again, I'm just drawing the sides of my windows here. And then I will draw my tops and my bottoms using my rotating ruler. And I am on the other side of the building now, so I do have to use my other vanishing point. So now that I've got the sides of my windows, I have to use my right vanishing point because I am doing the right side of the building now. And I'm going to rotate it up to where I want to draw the top of my window, bring it back to the vanishing point, drop it down, and keep working my way through there. Now this is the very basic windows on my main building here. I could also go in and add something as simple as the edges of the inside of the window to show a little more dimension, just by adding in a line like this so that it looks like you're looking at the side of the window encasing or window sills, right? So if I'm looking at it and I'm seeing the sides on this side, I'm seeing the left sides. On this side, I would be seeing that right side of the window. Just gives it a little more of a 3D appearance. So that's one style of window. I could also add a door in here, and you're going to do the doors the exact same way using the vanishing point. So I'm using my vanishing point, lining my ruler up, dropping it down to where I want the top of the rooftop to be, or not the rooftop, sorry, the door frame. Drawing my top of my door frame. All of my lines that are not pointed at my vanishing point are going to be vertical, so I'm just going to make the sides of the door frame vertical. Don't tilt them. They look like they're tilted, but they should be parallel with this line and this line. Then I can make it a little more 3D just by adding a few different lines. So this first line that I'm going to add is going to be with the vanishing point that's over here to the right. I am going to come to the corner here, place a very small line. Then I'm going to go vertical, and then I'm going to use my other vanishing point to draw another line across the bottom here. That's going to give the appearance that you can walk into this doorway. And then I'm going to do it as like a set of double doors. So my double doors are going to be a little uneven, and that's because this part of this door over here is kind of hidden by the wall that's obstructing your view. And then I can put like my little door handles on. So there's a little doorway. If I'm trying to add things like signs maybe to my buildings because I want to show what they are, I can do that the very same way. So if I'm going to add a sign right here, I want to show what this is. I'm going to use this vanishing point over here. So I'm going to put my pencil on my vanishing point so that I can rotate my ruler. And I'm going to draw very light lines here to show guidelines. And I'm going to drop it down a little bit for how tall I want my word to be. And then the interesting thing here is that your word needs to stay parallel with the side here, with these straight lines on your building. So you don't want them to tilt with the building. So for example, if I'm trying to write Publix, it needs to fall between those lines, but it kind of needs to stay straight up and down. Don't tilt your letters. And then I can get rid of my guidelines there. Those were there just to show me how to place my letters on the building so that they are in perspective with the rest of the building. Goes at the right angle. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and do some different windows on that building since I've got it prepared as my Publix, my very tall Publix there. I'm gonna do some easier window buildings, I guess. So I'm going to do something like some straight lines on this side. So I finished the side of my Publix building. I did kind of a unique pattern, did a couple close lines together, and then I did the straight across window lines going up that way. And again, I used my vanishing point to rotate on the left side of the building. Now that I'm on the right side, I'm going to do the exact same thing. But what I need to remember to do, make sure it's parallel to your wall there. What I need to remember to do is I need to remember to line up my windows I'm working on now with the ones that I already did. So what I mean by that is I'm going to use this vanishing point, but I need to come like to this line here, make sure that it's lined up between my vanishing point and that, and then wrap around with it. And then put it back to my vanishing point, work it down to where my last part of my windows were, and bring it across. Again to my vanishing point. So that way the windows look like they're coming up to the corner and they're going around and they're not uneven. Back to my vanishing point and keep working my way down that. I want to add in, I like this little courtyard area over here and I want to kind of add in a fence. So I'm going to use my vanishing point that's over here and I am going to draw, for right now, I'm just going to draw a straight line where I want my fence to go. And then the lines for my fence posts are just going to be vertical lines. So I'm just going to come along and draw where I want my fence posts to go. Vertical lines, don't tilt them. So there's my little fence, and if I want to get a little more detailed with it, I can. I could come in and using my vanishing point, add an extra little piece that would hold the fence pieces, posts on like that. And then again, using my vanishing point to rotate it and add in the extra parts here. And then, you know, you can create whatever you want in there. Maybe you want to have a little playground back here in your little courtyard between your buildings, or maybe you want to have a little garden, or maybe you want to have nothing at all. It's up to you. So there's my little fence in my little city here. And then you can do things like you can add in dumpsters in your alleyways. You can add in benches, but everything you do, you have to think of as far as perspective and drawing in 2-point perspective. So if I'm doing anything on this side of the building, I'm using this vanishing point. So I want to draw a little bench. I'm going to come down here, draw the top of my bench here. I'm going to draw the back of my bench with vertical lines because it's up against my building here. And then I'm going to draw the bottom of the back of my bench. So there's this back seat there. Then I need to bring it out. And to do that, I'm going to use my other vanishing point to draw the bench seat. So it's going to come out this way. Then it's going to be parallel to that, which is actually already kind of there. I'm going to make this line parallel to this one, and then I can kind of come in there's my little bench, and then I can kind of come in and make that a little more three-dimensional as well. Maybe add in some legs with some vertical lines. There's my little bench. Maybe I should have made the front of that a little more 3D. Anyway, when you're ready to add things like your sidewalks and your roads, they all are coming from the vanishing point as well. So I'm coming from my vanishing point here. I'm going to make my sidewalk, so I don't want it too crazy wide, but it needs to come from the vanishing point and get a little wider toward the front. When you get to that corner there, you're going to stop, and I'm going to do the same thing on this side. From my vanishing point to the corner. Then if I want to go ahead and make some lines to represent that it's a sidewalk, I am going to create those horizontally, I think. Let's see, maybe I want them to go, how do I want them to go? I want to use the vanishing point across from it. So if it's on this right side sidewalk, I want to point it at the vanishing point across. And then kind of rotate it up, just like I've been doing all along. So pointing it at my vanishing point across, even if it doesn't reach all the way there. Just to give the effect that it's a sidewalk. And it's getting closer to you. And then when I get to the other side of the sidewalk, I'm going to use my opposite vanishing point to to try to draw the lines for that side. And if you want to make it more three-dimensional, the sidewalk, you can kind of give it a little bit of a curb where they would step down off of, just by coming back to your vanishing point here and moving it down just a little bit. Draw the line. Maybe make a little vertical line here to show that you're stepping up. Same thing on this side. From the vanishing point, draw a very small line so that you get that step up. And then when you're ready to add the road, you can also add that in. And of course, you're going to be putting windows and doors and signs on all these buildings and putting a lot of detail into it. That's what I'm looking for. Not only that you can use perspective, but that you can also be creative and add a lot of detail, and that you're having good craftsmanship. So again, I'm coming from the vanishing point here. And then I'm going to come out this way toward my viewer. And again on this side. That's my road. I want to add lines onto the road so that I can show it is a road. So I'm going to kind of try to center that on the road that I created. I'm going to create some smaller lines toward the back, and they're going to get bigger as they come toward me. And then I need to come in still from my vanishing point, so those lines are going to be narrow at the back and then get wider at the front, but you're just going to make a line next to those. And then you're going to cap them off so that they look like lines on the road. And then you'll come in. So that'll give you a good start. It's going to take a lot of work. Back here, if you can see any area, like your city building should really go pretty much up to your vanishing point, but then you can put your horizon line back in if you can see any of it. You don't want to have no separation between your sky and your ground. Alright, so when you get to the coloring step, you can choose to color it however you would like. You can use Sharpies, you can use colored pencils, you can just use regular graphite pencil and do some shading. It's really your choice. I was actually using some colored pencil, and I was using a burnishing technique of applying the colored pencil. Up here you can actually see I just colored lightly with my colored pencils. So then I decided I wanted to try some burnishing, which is where you get an actual smooth look. But this takes a lot of time. If you want to do it, it looks very cool. Gives it a really finished look. But it depends on how much time you want to take on this. And remember, they are due by next Thursday. So if you are starting coloring today, you probably would have time to get it done. Here is just coloring lightly. A layering technique, it's called. And I'm just coloring in one direction, try not to switch directions. And I'm actually using, doing like a gradient, going from one color into another or lighter to darker. So you can do something like this. It's still going to take you a little bit of time, not quite as much time as the burnishing technique, but that would be coloring lightly. You don't have to outline in Sharpie unless you want to. I'm not going to. Let me show you burnishing. I'm going to zoom in a little bit so you can kind of see me working on this. So I went from orange to red in this direction and then orange to red in that direction. So when you're doing the burnishing technique, it's actually the same as this layering technique, except you're just going to continue to go over it several times to get this smooth effect. So I'm going to start with my orange on this side, and I'm just going to color nice and light. You shouldn't really be pressing very hard, although you will be adding more and more layers, so it will get darker and darker and more finished looking. And then I'm going to go into my red. Now you can see this is just that layering technique, going from one color to the other. And then I'm just going to keep layering it, getting a little harder with my pressure each time. So you can see there it's getting a little bit darker. I'm not pressing so hard my hand hurts, but I'm pressing hard enough that the color is getting darker. And you just keep going back and forth, and eventually it'll get so much color applied on there. I like to outline kind of next to my outlines there and then color in between. It'll get so much colored pencil on there that it'll get shiny and get a really finished look. So I'm just going to keep doing that so you can see how it eventually will look. And again, this is a pretty time-consuming process. But you can see that it's starting to get darker, it's starting to get smoother. And I am overlapping the colors a little bit so that the gradient is really smooth. It doesn't go just orange and then red. It goes orange into red. And I could probably keep going with this a little bit more. I did the same thing with the black. I applied it lightly at first, and I can outline. It helps to outline like this with markers or colored pencils before you color in between the lines, so that you're not going over your lines into your areas that you want to be a different color. So I just laid it down light like this first, and then I went back and used that technique to add more layers, some more burnishing. And I want it to go from dark to light to give a little more interest. So I'm going to go over it again, but I'm going to make that other end even darker. And again, you shouldn't have to press very hard, because each time you go on top of the last layer, it darkens it up more. So that's the techniques you have the options of using. If you're doing shading, you're going to come in, use graphite. You can just use a regular pencil. Remember that you're shading with the side of the pencil, and you're going to need to vary your values, meaning you're going to have to do some darks and some lights. Like here I'm doing the windows individually very light, and then I'm going in and coloring this in between section very dark so that there's some dimension and some definition. You don't want to color the whole thing just one shade of gray. Maybe in here I could even add like some highlights to my windows so it looks like there's some reflection, like streaking on the glass. And also, if you're using like value, you want to think about using some texture in some of your areas. So for example, like if you're doing grass, like say that I'm doing this courtyard area down here, and I want to put some grass down in there, I might go in and apply some grass if I'm doing it in pencil, for example. So choose your method of coloring, and you can get started on that when you are ready.